For those of you who may be interested to know, our Yak would have been the bane of the Germans' existence toward the end of the war, and therefore our German reenactors this afternoon will attempt to shoot far more important to share with you momentarily, and that being the flight of the world's only flyable de Havilland Mosquito.
Affectionately known as the Mozzie by the crews who flew it, regarded as the wooden wonder by so many people. The reason being that much of the aircraft is made from wood lamination. It was, let's get this right.
All right, 3 layers. Holding onto handles drafted onto the wings of their large Tupolev bomber, and would therefore slide back off the trailing edge of the wing to perform their drop. Sort of the more efficient method that we'll see demonstrated for us here today. Note too, as the plane passes the long, full-length ailerons on the Ju-52. Mark quoted to you earlier the airspeed, the max airspeed of about 160 miles per hour for these aircraft. Not particularly remarkable, but they could turn on a dime. It gave them a little bit of an advantage, but not much, when engaging in combat during the Second World War. And as we mentioned previously as well, the Germans tried on 2 separate occasions to develop a replacement for the Ju-52 during the Second World War, neither of which ever entered service, because by the time their development had been undertaken, Germany's manufacturing capacity had been so far reduced they could not bring into production a brand new design. And so the old Ju-52, with origins as far back as 1930, continued on in service until the bitter end of the war in 1945, many of them being used in desperate attempts to airlift people out of cities like Berlin, totally besieged and surrounded by
Northern Ireland, and they developed a 3-engine version, one of those, and there's still probably 3 or 4 of those operating at the an engine on the nose.
Is that neat?
In Alabama.
This is Gerald Yagan making good his return in our P-51 Mustang. And of course, it's Mr. Yagan who makes this collection possible. I'll let you into a little secret. That is the North American P-64, or at least it's intended to be. The aircraft started life as a standard North American SNJ-4, but this particular version's been souped up to about 1,475 horsepower with a Wright 1820 engine, and now represents a little known and obscure fighter aircraft derivative of the SNJ, that being the P-64, built in 1940 and distributed to a very small number of owners. In fact, the Thailand Air Force, the Royal Thai Air Force, was intended to receive approximately 12 of them, I think.
Yeah, because they never got them, did they?
No, they didn't. They were overrun by the Japanese, and instead we impounded them, put them into use as training aircraft. And then by the end of the war, they'd essentially been exhausted, and they were all but scrapped, except for one.
Yeah. And the Peruvian Air Force down in South America had 7 of them. I think 1 still survives. I'm not sure if that's airworthy.
No, not at all. In fact, it's been sitting on the end of a pylon for the last 50 years or so. Yeah. Well, of course, the C-6 in general didn't carry armament unless it was being pressed into service. And so it's not unlike what you find with automobile manufacturers. The P-64 represents a reimagining of a traditional design. That Hawk design, it originally was debuted as a radial engine-powered fighter, which saw service with France during the Second World War, and again also I think in the Far East, I believe in the Dutch East Indies, but I can't remember for certain. Landing now our P-40 Warhawk, Kitty Hawk, Tomahawk, a Hawk by any other name, today piloted by our chief pilot, Mr. Mike Spaulding.
Now we got the updated to backtracking down the runway to prepare for takeoff for the second appearance of both said aircraft and also the portion of Yaga who will be fitting the aircraft in a nice different guise for this second appearance. Back
rather authentically represented here by members of the Airborne Demonstration Team, again joining us from Freeman Field, Oklahoma. They will be disembarking